Hey, what's up guys? This is Michael Coe from Movement IQ Physical Therapy, and this is the BJJ Body Restoration Project. So from UFC Gym La Mirada, I got a request from Jeremy asking me how to stretch out the middle thoracic spine, or the middle of the spine in between the shoulder blade region. So I'm going to bring in a scenario that's a little more specific than just learning how to stretch that area. And so I'm going to say, what about stretching the thoracic spine in flexion or forward bent, right? So why would you need to do that in Jiu-Jitsu? So I think one big thing is going to be whenever you're going to be inverted. So you play inverted guard, or maybe moving around in a position where you're going to be, your head is down, your feet are up in the air. You need to have total body flexion of the spine, be able to stay in that position, be comfortable there, be able to do some movements there. So flexion is going to be this forward bent motion. I've seen some videos talking about trying to do inverted guard, and one stretch that they'll say is just the ability to bring that chin down towards your chest, which is not really wrong, but I think there's a little more to it because the entire spine, so cervical, thoracic, lumbar spine, all needs the ability to go into this curled up flexion position. And then on top of that, you need to have the hips ability to go up and towards your chest too, so hip flexion also. But I'm just going to talk about thoracic flexion, all right? So thoracic spine is tricky because of the fact that there's one thing that makes the thoracic spine unique is that there's ribs attached from the back to the front to the sternum on both sides. And you have 12 ribs. 10 of them are attached from the back to the front, 2 are floating on each side. What that does, it creates a lot more structural stability. So in order for that thing to move, it makes it really difficult. What's up, buddy? It makes it a little more difficult. So trying to get that to move in different directions a little bit more, a little harder than compared to the cervical spine and the lumbar spine. So what I'm going to do is talk about flexion. So how can we work on flexion? So here's one way you can work on flexion. There's a lot of different ways. Other than just if you want to play inverted guard and try and get that flexion, you could just be inverted as much as you can. Being on your back, bring the legs back over you. But if there's another way you want to work on is this. So I'm a big fan of anything quadruped. Quadruped being on all fours, right? Hands and knees, or hands and toes. So I'm going to go on my hands and knees, and we're going to go into this cat-cow position. Right? So that's a yoga term. So I want to go into this. This is flexion of the spine. All right. So if you were to just go up and try to get rounded through the spine, you'll get flexion. But to be more specific towards that thoracic spine, this is something I want you to think about, is that the body or the spine will always go towards the path of least resistance. That's your basic physics science term, right? Path of least resistance, if you have snow-capped mountains and they melt, the water's going to go towards the path of least resistance down into create a stream and then a river. So the spine does the same thing too. If you have one segment that moves a lot more than all the others, that one's going to move more every time unless you try to be real specific. So if you look at me here, I'm just going to go up. All right. So right under that blue part in the back part of my black shirt is probably where the apex of that curve is. But if I want to get a little more specific to the lumbar spine, I could try and bias and get more of that lumbar spine to curl a little bit more. Now my lumbar spine doesn't move very much, so that doesn't look too different. But what if I wanted to get in between the shoulder blades? So if I want to think about, what I want you to think about is in between the shoulder blades, pretend there's someone who has a string, they're pulling up right between the shoulder blades. So that'll look more like this. That's a little bit different than that, where the apex of the curve is. So if you can try to concentrate that apex of the curve in between the shoulder blades, you can try to get very specific to that part of the spine to move. On top of that, you can also add the head to move in the flexion. So if I want to get to the point of in between the shoulder blades to move, then I can add that head to come down and get a better stretch through all the muscles in the back of the spine there. All right, so try that out as a way to try to get thoracic flexion or spine flexion. Pretty much what I said was you can get any specific part of that spine to move depending on your intention. So you can choose any part of that spine and get that to move better. All right, guys? If you have any questions, any requests, please comment. If you have any friends that would like to be part of this group, they do BJJ and have questions, please invite them. And have a good night.